This is the anticipating from emerging market country if a United States recession, do you think?
I think from the point of view of emerging markets, the financial channel of exchange rates and the transmission of financial conditions through capital markets probably will be the most important channel whereby the global conditions will be felt first. So I think this is another instance of the financial channel of exchange rates. And I think for that reason, it's very important that we think about exchange rates not simply as the price of traded goods, but also as a transmitter of financial conditions. And so, if the central bank or the authorities in a particular country or region has the scope and has the FX reserves, then on occasions, I think suitable judicious intervention in the capital markets, in the FX market, would be able to temper some of the very tight conditions. But in general, once the financial conditions reach your shore, there are tools available, and this is what we also wrote in the report that we submitted to the G20. But it's important also to get the basics right. And of course, the most important task is to bring down inflation.
Okay, it's a break down inflation. But what's the policy priorities you think can reduce the inflation but without suppress the growth?
I think there is a trade-off. There is going to be a trade-off because the way that monetary policy works is to suppress demand. Now, as I said, and as I presented this morning in the conference, provided that the preconditions are favorable, and that, for example, includes things like how sensitive is demand to a rise in interest rates. So if demand components are very interest elastic, and you have some buffers that you can draw on, then while it's a narrow path, a soft landing or a softish landing will still be feasible. I think the important thing is to make sure that you build buffers during good times. But even now, I think there is a scope. Now, clearly, there is also a role for safety nets, and this is where multilateral institutions like the IMF clearly will have a role. And so, for those economies that have fallen into some very tough times and that have very little policy space, then I think the global financial safety net will also have a role to play. Now, there's also going to be a role for targeted fiscal intervention, where the most disadvantaged sections of society can be provided relief during these very tough times. But in general, fiscal policy has to be run in a way that does not undermine the general macro stability and the general approach to the policy.
Talking about multilateralism, do you think multilateralism needed to tackle global policy challenges?
I think there is a lot of goodwill, and we've just finished the G20 meetings. It was a very, of course, we had some very deep discussions, and there are enormous challenges for multilateralism going forward. It's not going to be easy to go back to the situation we were in several years ago, so pre-pandemic. But I think there is a role for groupings like the G20. I think it's a very, very important forum for us to really discuss in a very frank way the challenges for the global economy. And clearly there is a role for institutions like the IMF and the BIS in helping policymakers to actually ride out some of the difficulties.
Yeah, we have from G20 forum, we can hand in hand, country hand in hand, and then we can survive and then out from this problem, and then the uncertainty in the global can we erase, and then we can be better. Thank you for your time, Excellency Hyun Song Shin, Economic Advisor and Head of Research of the Bank for International Settlement, for your time.